Hello, my name is Thomas Grant. I'm an international lawyer and senior fellow at the Lauterbach Center for International Law at the University of Cambridge. I've been asked to say a few words about Russia and Russia's participation in the Security Council of the UN. In particular, I've been asked to consider whether legal grounds exist to limit or to exclude Russia from participating in the Security Council, and if they do, how Ukraine and other countries might go about limiting or excluding Russia from that United Nations organ. The UN Charter provides for expelling a member country where the country has persistently violated principles of the UN Charter. There's no real doubt that Russia is responsible for violations of international law that justify removing Russia from the UN, not just from the UN Security Council, but from the UN as a whole. Now, for the UN to expel a member, the two chief political organs of the UN both must decide to expel the member. The General Assembly must vote by a two-thirds majority to expel the member. The Security Council must recommend expulsion. A Security Council recommendation to expel a member is a substantive recommendation, and that means because it's a recommendation on a matter of legal substance, the Council adopts the recommendation only if no permanent member of the Council votes against the recommendation. In other words, the UN will not expel a member if a permanent member of the Council exercises the power of veto. The UN has never expelled a member. It's interesting to note as a historical aside that the League of Nations did on one occasion expel one of its members. The League of Nations expelled the USSR. That was in 1939 when the USSR launched an unprovoked war against Finland. The League of Nations operated under a different voting rule than the UN, so the USSR didn't have a chance to stop it. Though the UN has never expelled a member, it has taken steps to limit or to suspend the participation of a member. In 1956, the UN prevented Hungary from participating. This was after the USSR had invaded Hungary and imposed a puppet regime on that country. For the years 1956, 57, and 58, the UN kept Hungary's representatives out of the organization. Then, in 1974, the UN prevented South Africa from participating. This was in response to South Africa refusing to end its apartheid racist system of government. How did the UN do this? How did it prevent a country from participating, even though it didn't expel the country outright? In both cases, Hungary in 1956, South Africa in 1974, the UN General Assembly used its procedural rules. Under its procedural rules, specifically Rule 29, the General Assembly judges any challenge to the credentials of a member country's representatives. If the Assembly judges the credentials to be in good order, then the representatives are permitted to participate. If the Assembly rejects the credentials, then the representatives are not permitted to participate. The Security Council has procedural rules as well. Rule 17 of the Council's procedure works much the same way as Rule 29 of the Assembly's procedure. Under Rule 17, any member of the Council may raise objection to the credentials of a representative. If the Council decides that the representative's credentials are in good order, then the representative may keep his seat and participate. If the Council decides to reject the credentials, then the representative must vacate the seat and his country will not participate. It's under the credentials procedure that the UN Security Council could vote to reject Russia's credentials. But wouldn't Russia veto any proposal to prevent Russia from participating in the Council? After all, Russia holds a permanent member seat in the Council, and every permanent member has the power of veto. Veto, however, applies only to matters of legal substance in the Council. A veto does not apply to decisions of procedure. Credentials decisions are decisions of procedure. Accordingly, Russia could not use the veto to block the Council from rejecting Russia's credentials. Now, in the Security Council, Russia fills the seat allocated under the UN Charter to the Soviet Union, the USSR. Ukraine's foreign minister recently has observed that Russia came to fill the USSR seat in December 1991. The foreign minister has raised the question whether Russia coming to fill the USSR seat was constitutionally proper. It's a serious question. Mr. Kuleba, the foreign minister of Ukraine, is in good company when he asks it. One of the preeminent international lawyers of the latter part of the 20th century, Professor Yehuda Blum, who held the Hirsch-Lauterpacht Chair of International Law at the University of Jerusalem, and in fact had represented his country at the UN for a number of years, doubted whether it was constitutionally proper for Russia to fill the old Soviet seat. Ukraine has good reason to remind UN members of the manner in which Russia came to fill the Soviet seat, which was at best idiosyncratic. And Ukraine also has good reason to remind UN members of the manner in which Russia uses that seat. Since 1991, Russia has been by far the most prolific among permanent members in wielding the veto. Russia has wielded the veto repeatedly to block the Council from responding to Russia's aggression against Ukraine, among other abuses of the veto. And let's make no mistake, Russia does not use the Security Council veto in order to champion the underdeveloped world or the global south, or to stand up against some supposed coalition of bad actors. Russia uses the veto in order to avoid accountability, in particular accountability for Russia's own egregious violations of international law. For the Security Council to use its credentials procedure to exclude Russia would follow practically to the letter well-tested UN precedent. It would open the door for the Council to act on substantive matters such as Russia's war crimes and Russia's legal responsibility to pay financial compensation to Ukraine for the injuries that Russia's aggression has caused. Moreover, it would demonstrate the Council's resolve against the most serious challenge to the UN Charter since the inception of the organization. Thank you.